You do it without thinking now. The back row, the corner booth, the chair is nearest the door. You scan the room before you sit, not for the best seat, but for the one that asks the least of anyone. The one where you can see everything but are unseen by anyone. It looks like a preference, maybe you've even told yourself it is. I just like being able to leave easily. I can see better from back here. And those things might be true, but underneath them there's something else, something older, something you don't have clean words for. Or maybe you do have words, but they feel too dramatic for what is, on the surface, just choosing a seat. But it's not just choosing a seat. You know that. There's a particular kind of person who moves through the world like a guest in every room. Not unwelcome exactly, but not quite settled either, always slightly angled toward the exit. You might recognize them by the way they hover at the edges of group photos, the way they deflect attention when it lands on them, the way they seem, relieved isn't the right word, something like relieved when someone else starts talking and the spotlight moves. They laugh at the right moments, they contribute when it feels safe, but there's a part of them that never fully arrives. A part still standing in the doorway. And the strange thing is, no one ever told them to stand there. Or maybe they did, not with words, rarely with words. More like, how do I explain this? A climate. The way a room shifts when certain people enter it. The way attention is drawn to some bodies and repelled from others. You learn to read that current early. You learn where you fall in it. And if where you fall is the margin, you stop questioning it. If you've ever found yourself automatically drifting to the edges of rooms, of conversations, of your own wants, you probably didn't learn this nowhere. Maybe it started with a home where space was already claimed, where the emotional center of the family belonged to someone else, a louder sibling, a parent who needed more than they could give, a crisis that kept happening until it stopped being a crisis and just became the way things were. I keep thinking about dinner tables, the way conversation would happen, and you'd have something to say, and you'd wait for a gap, and the gap wouldn't come. Or it would come, and you'd start talking, and someone would interrupt, and you'd just stop, let it go. After a while, you stopped waiting for the gap to appear. You stopped having things to say. It was easier. That's where it starts, I think. These small moments of learning that your voice isn't the one the room is waiting for. And group photos, I don't know why this one stays with me. The way you'd automatically drift to the side, or the back row, or offer to take the picture instead. I'll take it, it's fine. And it was fine. It was easier than standing in the middle and feeling like you were taking up someone else's spot. I feel like the photo would be better balanced without you in the center of it. You learn to make yourself the margin, the background, the person who's technically in the frame but wouldn't be missed if they weren't. And none of this felt like a decision. It felt like, I don't know, like gravity, like water finding its level. You just ended up at the edge because that's where you fit. That's where you'd always fit. So you made yourself peripheral, not invisible, just unobtrusive. You became fluent in reading what the room needed and removing yourself from the equation before you could become a problem. Before anyone had to say, not now, or we don't have time for this, or worse, nothing at all. Just that look, that slight shift away. Maybe it was subtler than that. Maybe no one ever pushed you aside. Perhaps you've just noticed that when you stayed quiet, things went more smoothly. People seemed more comfortable when you didn't need things from them. Need, I keep coming back to that word. How early it became something to hide. Children don't decide this consciously. They adapt, they feel the shape of what's allowed, and they pour themselves into it. And if the shape they're given is narrow, if love seems conditional on staying out of the way, then they learn to want less, to expect less, to position themselves where disappointment can't find them. And somehow, you're not sure when exactly, the edge stopped being a place you went to. it started being the only place that made sense. There's a specific kind of loneliness that comes from being present but not quite there. You show up, you attend, you participate in all the ways that are expected. But some part of you stays back, measuring how much of yourself is safe to bring into the room. And the answer is usually not all of it. So you attend your own life from a distance. You may have friends who are unaware of some basic things about you, partners who sense there's more but can never quite reach it, and they might think you're private or reserved. But that's not quite it. The truth is that you learned somewhere along the way that being fully known was a risk, because being known means being seen, and being seen means being, I don't know, like being the only person standing when everyone else has a seat. That's not quite right, more like everyone has a seat, and you have one too, but you keep thinking someone's going to need it more than you do. So you stay at the edge, where you can observe without being observed. Where can you leave before being left? Where rejection, if it comes, won't sting as much, because you were never really all the way in. This is the logic of it. It makes sense when you're young and powerless and trying to survive a world that feels unpredictable. But it doesn't know how to stop. There's a cost to living like this. It doesn't announce itself. It accumulates. You might notice it first in compliments. Someone says something kind, and your first thought isn't thank you, it's, wait, are you sure? Are you sure you meant me? And then you smile and say, thank you, because that's what you do. But inside, something is deflecting. Something doesn't believe it. Something thinks, if they really knew me, they wouldn't say that. I've been sitting with that reaction. The deflection, it's not humility, not really. Humility would be, I'm not that great, but thank you. This is different. This is, you must have the wrong person. It's like being handed a package with your name on it and checking the address twice, because surely it was meant for the neighbor. Where does that come from? The assumption that anything good must be misdelivered. And it's not just compliments. It's anything that puts you in the center of someone's attention. Gifts make you uncomfortable, not because you don't appreciate them, you do almost painfully, but because receiving them means someone was thinking about you, specifically you, and that feels like too much, like you've accidentally taken up more space in their mind than you were supposed to. Birthdays are hard for the same reason, the idea that a whole day might revolve around you, that people might look at you, sing to you, give you things. A part of you wants to disappear during the happy birthday song, to be anywhere else, not because you're ungrateful, but because being the center of that much warmth feels, I don't know how to say this, unearned, like you're borrowing something that belongs to someone else. I think it comes from the same place as the edge sitting, from years of learning that your presence was conditional. You were welcome as long as you didn't take up too much space, and somewhere along the way, too much started to include receiving things, compliments, attention, care, anything that would require you to believe you deserve to be in the center of someone's kindness. There's a term for this apparently. Psychologists call it self-silencing, the pattern of suppressing your own needs, opinions, or presence to maintain relationships or avoid conflict. I read that somewhere and felt something click, not because the word explained it exactly, but because it meant that other people do this too. There were enough people that someone had to name it. They also talk about rejection sensitivity, a heightened radar for any sign you might be unwanted. People who carry this mindset don't imagine rejection. They detect the possibility of it and act as if it has already happened. They sit at the edge before anyone can ask them to. I'm not sure if knowing this helps, but there's something in having words for it, something that makes it feel less like a personal failing and more like an unavoidable circumstance. To people, a pattern you learned because learning it made sense at the time. The hard part is that what made sense then still holds true now, automatically in rooms that might actually have space for you. The edge of the room isn't just a physical location, it's a metaphorical boundary. It's a posture toward life, a habit of pulling back from things you want because wanting feels presumptuous. You apply for the job you're overqualified for. You stay in friendships where you give more than you get. You settle into a life that is fine, genuinely fine, but smaller than the one you sense you could have. And you tell yourself this is just who you are. But late at night sometimes there's something else. Not quite a thought, a pressure, a wondering. What would it be like to sit in the middle of something? That wondering is the part of you that never agreed to the arrangement. There's a grief in this. It lacks a clear objective. It's not that something terrible happened. It's that something quiet happened over and over until you stop noticing it as something happening at all. The grief is for the rooms you never fully entered, the conversations you held back from, the relationships where you kept one foot out because all the way in felt too risky. The grief is for the moments when you could have said, "This is what I want," and didn't. Not because anyone stopped you, because you stopped yourself, because by then it was automatic. I think about that a lot. The automatic part, how can you spend years making a choice without knowing you're making it? The grief is for the child who learned to make themselves easy, who figured out that the world went smoother when they needed less, who didn't know, couldn't have known, that the lessons they were learning would keep running long after the original situation was gone. And there's a grief for the relationships that never got to be what they could have been. The friendships where you stayed at arm's length, the people who wanted to know you, really know you, and you couldn't let them. Not because you didn't want to, but because closeness felt like exposure, and exposure felt like danger. And by the time you realized the danger might not be real anymore, the pattern was already set. Where was I going with this? Right, the grief, sitting with it, not trying to fix it or make it mean something hopeful, just letting it be what it is, which is loss, a kind of loss, for a version of yourself that might have existed if the room had felt safer, if there had been space for you in the middle, if someone had said and meant it, "You belong here." You can't get those years back. That's the hard part. You can't unlearn the lessons in reverse. You can't go back and raise your hand in class, or stand in the center of the photo, or say what you actually thought at dinner. Those moments are gone, and the person you might have been if you hadn't learned to shrink, you don't get to meet them. You just get to wonder about them sometimes, late at night when you're being honest with yourself. Perhaps the most challenging aspect is this. You've become so adept at the edge that you're unsure how to navigate anywhere else. The center feels foreign, exposed. Even when someone invites you in, genuinely, without conditions, there's a part of you that doesn't trust it. That waits for the catch. That assumes you'll eventually be asked to move back. And I don't know how to fix that. I'm not sure anyone does. I'm not sure it's the kind of thing that gets fixed. But I think it might be the kind of thing that gets noticed, named, held differently. Here is what I keep coming back to. The thing about protecting yourself is, at some point you stop being able to tell the difference between safe and alone. They start to feel like the same thing. The walls that keep the bad things out keep everything else out too. And maybe you've started to notice this, the cost of the protection. Perhaps you've wondered what would happen if you were to move, not dramatically, just shifted. Let yourself be slightly more visible. Let your opinions sit in the air a moment longer before taking it back. The thought probably terrifies you. It terrifies me too. The edge is known. It's where you've survived, and the center is where you might discover that your oldest fear was right. Or you might discover something else. You might discover that the room has space for you, that some people actually want you closer, that the danger you've been bracing for isn't as present as it used to be. That part is harder to trust. Harder than staying small, harder than the familiar ache of being present but peripheral. But somewhere underneath the fear, there's still that wondering, the one that asks what it would feel like to belong without conditions. I don't know if the wondering ever goes away, Even if you start to move toward the center, even if you learn slowly to take up more space, maybe it stays with you, a reminder of where you came from. And maybe this is the part I'm less sure about. Maybe it becomes something else over time, not a wound exactly, more like a sensitivity, a way of noticing people, a gentleness toward the ones still standing in the doorway. Because you know what that feels like, the calculation, the quiet hope underneath the careful distance. I don't have a clean ending for this. The permission you've been waiting for, to take up space, to sit in the middle, to belong without earning it, I don't think it's coming from outside. I think it might have to come from you. And I think you might already know that. You're just not sure you believe it yet. That's okay, neither am I. Most days, we're still figuring it out.